Hello and welcome or welcome back on the Parisian Mall, the channel dedicated to giving you all the insights and information about how to actually move to Paris. So just to give you a little bit of context, I'm Vittoria and I'm an Italian girl that 1 year ago, 1 year and a half, decided to move to Paris. Now, in today's video, actually, I'm going to talk about something different from our normal videos of different procedures on how to actually move to Paris, like the bureaucratic procedures, because in the very last period, I received quite a few questions on Instagram about my personal experience. So why I decided to move to Paris, when I moved to Paris, if I knew French before moving, if I found a job before moving here, or if I found a job when I was already here, how I created a new group of friends, and all these things, which I'm absolutely aware of are the biggest question marks that we have when we find ourselves facing a change like this one. Because of course, when you decide to move and change your country, change your life, change everything, it's scary. It's so much scary, and I know it because I was so scared of taking this decision. And so, as I am pretty much aware of how helpful it has been for me when I decided to move to Paris, finding information, videos, articles about people that had gone through that before me to, see some common points in the story and find some similarities in the reasons why these people moved to Paris, how they put into place this change. And so I thought that putting together all these questions and creating a video with all the replies may be very helpful for someone just like trying to gain some information on this specific subject, and most importantly maybe trying to find a little bit of courage to take that decision that you may have already taken inside of you but you're scared to actually face. So without further ado, let's get right into this video and reply to your questions. I actually made a list because I don't want to forget anything, so I will go through the list in order not to get off the trail, but I'm gonna take the first question. Okay, so the most common question that I received is why I moved to Paris. And the reason is because I wanted to. It's like as simple as that. I wanted to move to Paris. I had this big love for this city, and I don't really know why. I can't actually find a reason for that. I just know, and I just knew back at the time that I wanted to move to Paris. So for quite a few years, I've been having this dream in my head, there in a corner of my brain. And I don't know why, but every single time I came to Paris, because this is another question I got asked, if I ever came to Paris before actually moving, and the answer is yes. And every single time I came to Paris, either as a tourist, either for work, I felt way more at home here than in Milan, even though I had no connection with this city, because I had no friends living in Paris, I had no family living in Paris, I had no work connections in Paris. I knew nothing about Paris, but I had a feeling. I felt like here was where I belonged. And I'm pretty sure that so many of you can understand this because so many of you write me that they have this love for Paris. And so I think it's something that you just have inside of you. And even though you cannot explain it, you actually you have it, you feel it. You feel like that is the right choice for you. You feel like that is something that you have to do sooner or later in your life. And now for me, that was the case. I always knew at some point that I would have moved to Paris, but I couldn't calendarize that. I couldn't understand when that was going to happen. And in the first few months of 2022, that's when I realized that I didn't want to waste any more time in not trying to pursue that dream. So first half of 2022 is when I started to concretely think about Paris as a possibility, as a reality, and when I decided to concretely pursue that goal. But again, I didn't know anybody in Paris. So first, I had no one I could ask for some support, and I had no one I could ask information to. So I started going online and trying to find the main amount of information I could in order to understand what I had to do to move. But the problem is that the more I searched for information, the more I found very spare information, very confused. Some websites told me I needed to do something. Some websites told me I needed to do other things. Some websites told me something was mandatory and other told me it was not. So it was very confused and I couldn't really make up my mind on what I actually had to do, which is also the reason why in the end, after moving in here, I decided to open this account because I wanted to try to be as helpful as possible to someone facing the same process I needed to face 1 year ago, because I know how hard it is, most importantly in the beginning, and when you don't know what you have to do. For me, the most important thing at the time was finding a job, because in order to move to Paris, I had to find a job. And this also connects to another question that I get asked a lot, meaning if I found a job before moving or if I moved and then I found a job when I was in Paris. So I want to do a little bit of rewind here because I was prepared for both scenarios. Like I wanted to give all I could to find a job before moving, but I was prepared because I wouldn't have been capable of finding a job from Italy. I would have moved and I would have found a solution from here. But I know how hard it is when you need to find a job and you have to wait until you find a job, and then you have to wait until you receive the first paycheck. And if you have to provide for yourself, that's even harder, of course, unless you have some savings. But if you don't, it's hard. So what I did was, in order to try to avoid that situation, I activated my resume mode, meaning that I updated my resume, I added all the details, I fixed the layout, and I started sending out the CVs every single moment I had. So first of all, I checked all of the websites used in France in order to find a job, what were the main ones, and I created alerts for job positions in all of them. And of course, if you need deeper information about how to find a job in Paris, this is one of the first videos I created on YouTube, so I place it here in the corner, but you can find it on my channel. So if you need specific information on that, just go take a look at the video because you will find everything explained in detail over there. And then of course, LinkedIn was super helpful for me. So I fixed my profile, I activated job alerts for the job role I was looking for in Paris. And from that moment on, every single day when I had 5 minutes, like before going to work, during coffee breaks, lunch breaks, when I got home from work, every single moment I had, I sent out resumes. And it took weeks and months, but then I started receiving replies from recruiters and I started doing the first job interviews. And here I want to give you an advice. Sometimes I received replies from recruiters and then gaining some deeper information about the company, I realized it was maybe not the right field for me because of my skills, because probably I didn't have enough skills for that specific sector. So maybe I knew that the job interviews were going to go until just a certain point, but I decided to do them by the way, because I knew it was going to be a precious resource for me to train. Because most importantly, you have to understand that it's going to be an interview in a different language. It's going to be an interview handled by a recruiter that may have a different background from what you are used to, and so may ask different questions from the questions you are used to in your own country. So it's a good training also because you have to also consider the psychological element. You may be anxious, you may be a little bit emotional during the interview. So the more you get to train before the actual interview, that will bring you to the actual job you will find in Paris, the better. Because then when that opportunity will arrive, you will be ready and you will have a little bit of training behind you. So this is actually what happened to me, because after a few interviews with different recruiters, I ended up going through a recruitment process for the company that actually in the end hired me. And also, if you think that finding a job in Paris would be quicker or easier because you're already there, it may be, it definitely may be, but actually all the job interviews I did were remotely. And then the last one, I came to Paris. If you're looking for a job from your own country, it's not going to be a problem because, by the way, recruiters can do interviews remotely. In case they will tell you that they would like to organize an in-person meeting in their offices. But usually this doesn't happen in the very first phases because they prefer to filter out candidates through remote interviews. That being said, what I highly recommend if you're looking for a job and you are in your home country, just be specific on the resume that you are moving to Paris or you're looking for a position in Paris, because most importantly right now, recruiters, when they see your resume and they see that you're not in Paris, they may think that you think it's a fully remote position. So you have to specify that you're actually applying because you want to move. So that's just my advice. And then let's take the list because I'm forgetting the next question. Okay, next question is if I already knew French before moving. So in my case, yes, I spoke French before moving, but not like the highest level of French. So I was not super proficient. I had a good level of French, but still I have to tell you the big difference will be made when you move here. because no matter how good you are in French, by the way, being immersed in society, people speaking to you in French every day, speaking in French, reading in French, doing everything in French, that is going to be the biggest school ever. So for those of you who are a little bit concerned because maybe they just know the basics or they don't know French at all, don't be concerned. It's something that you can learn once you arrive here. Now, I have to do a distinction here. If you are concerned for your French because of finding a job in France without speaking French scares you, I have to say that most importantly in Paris, which is a very international city, there are a lot of jobs that you can find in English. Like, so many companies are international companies and they have a branch in Paris, but right because they are international companies, they maintain English as the corporate language. So you will more likely speak in English in meetings with the company itself. Of course, in the daily interaction, more likely people within the office will speak French, but you can learn. If they know you don't speak French, they will speak to you in English. When I moved here, one of my colleagues was Australian. She didn't speak French at the time, and we all spoke in English with her. And also, a lot of meetings were held in English. So I wouldn't be scared of that. And on the other side, there are also French companies that are internationally oriented, and so they want to hire people that speak English for sure. And then French, they know you can learn it. And sometimes they also pay for your language course. Now, that being said, French for your daily life, it's another thing. Because of course, in the daily interaction, French is going to be useful, but also needed. Because by the way, we are in France. So of course they speak French. So if you have to go to the pharmacy, if you have to go to the supermarket, if you have to go buy flowers, I don't know, you will more likely need to speak French. Now, they do speak English. So by the way, you will manage. But that being said, French is going to be very helpful. So what I can suggest you is, if you don't know French or if you have a basic level in French, just try to either start learning it, either improve that through, I don't know, language apps, online courses, podcasts. Listening to podcasts truly helped me back at the time. Watching movies in French, series in French, reading books in French. For example, books for kids, they're super helpful because they are written in a very simple French because they are for kids. So that could be another helpful solution. So just try to do the best you can to have a very basic level, like the first, layer of French, because then once you arrive in here, there are plenty of solutions you can think about. You can enroll in a language course, you can meet with the people that speak in French in order, to do a language exchange. So there are a lot of ways you can improve it. So just don't allow yourself to be blocked by the fact you don't speak French, because you can do it even in English, and then French, you can learn it once you're here. So that for sure, that was the case also for me. I spoke a good level of French, but nothing compared to how I improved my French once I moved here. So don't worry at all, because it's gonna get better. And then the other point is the house problem. Because when I found a job, I was in Italy. I found a job in Paris. So I left my job in Italy. I quit my home in Milan. I started to organize the moving, and then I moved to Paris. Finding a home in Paris was one of the first things that I had in my mind, because of course moving meant finding a home. And I was absolutely not aware of how hard it is to find a home in Paris because of all the documents you are required to show when wanting to rent an apartment. And I had no document at the time because I still needed to move. So the documents required to rent a home are pretty much all French documents, because you need French paychecks, a French bank account, a guarantor, so many things, and I didn't have them yet. So for me, it was very hard. Also because at the time, again, not knowing anybody in Paris, I didn't know about all these documents. I didn't know about the dossier de location. So the thing that worked best for me at the time was finding a temporary solution for the beginning. So I found a temporary accommodation for the first 2 to 3 months. So I had enough time to put together all the documents and create my dossier, and then looking for a home, booking appointments with landlords, looking at apartments. And in the end, I found a home and I settled down. So if you don't have someone that can host you for the very first period, a temporary solution may be useful. But you can find all of these tips on my Instagram channel if you need them. And basically, the last point, which is a very deep point, and I know that it can affect a lot of people, is if I moved alone, and if yes, how I managed loneliness in the very first period. Because I know that this is something that scares a lot of people that maybe have a dream and they want to do this, but they are so scared of being lonely and feeling lonely that this is what stops them from pursuing their dreams. And I totally understand it, because I know how hard it is, most importantly, in the beginning when you move to a new city, new country, and you don't know anybody, you don't have no reference point. It's hard because it's you and yourself, and it's hard. And I know that it can be scary, but let me tell you, in my case, it was way scarier, the thought of never doing this. Like for me, it was way scarier to think about keep living the life I was living with my head in another place rather than stepping out of the comfort zone and facing the unknown, but at least trying to pursue that dream. So I think it's not a matter of how hard it is, because it will always be hard. Like every change is hard at first. But I think it's a matter of how hard you want it. So if you have a dream so deep inside of you, so strong that you are willing to do everything you need to do in order to pursue it, you will overcome fear, you will overcome difficulties, you will face obstacles, and you will create that reality that you keep thinking about. If you're not super sure, if you don't know if you really want to do it, if you're a little undecisive about it, well, more likely the very first, second, or third difficulty that you face will probably make you second guess yourself and go back to your comfort zone. So it's a matter of how hard you want it. In my case, I was ready for all the challenges because I really wanted it. The most important thing for me was to move. And for every challenge I had to face, I was willing to find the way to overcome it. That being said, of course, stepping out of your comfort zone, it's always going to be scary because you don't know what you will find. You know what you leave behind. You leave behind the people you care about, the people you love, your family, your friends, your routine, your daily life, your job, everything. And you move towards something you know nothing about. You don't know the people, you don't know maybe the language, you don't know the culture, you don't know the tradition, it's not your country, it's not what you're used to, you don't have memories connected to the place. It's a blank canvas. But let me tell you something about blank canvas. You can fill them up as you want. So for me, the idea of facing this change alone, it's one of the best things that could possibly happen to you because you are the author. You get to write that new chapter as you want because you are holding the pen. So you can choose for yourself. You can choose how you want your life to be once you will be here. And it's great because you can choose whatever you like, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. And in the beginning, you will have a period with yourself, but it will actually be a great occasion to wander around, discover the city, create a relationship with the city, and most importantly, re-meet yourself. Discover how strong you are in a situation that you maybe have never found yourself, facing challenges you may never had a chance to face before, and understanding how strong you are and how powerful you are and how capable you are of facing things, which is great. And then at some point, it's natural. You will meet people. You will. Because even starting from your colleagues, sooner or later, you will find a job if you don't already have it, and you will create connections with your colleagues. And then it can be good, it can be bad, but still, it will be an interaction. And then one of the biggest advice I can give you is if you have a passion, if there's something, some activities that you like to do in your free time right now or in your home country, just try to find them here in Paris. For example, I met a girl and she used to play volleyball in her home country. And as soon as she moved to Paris, the first thing she did was finding the volleyball center, I think it's called. I don't know, I'm not very practical in that. So if you know the name, just let me know in the comment. But by the way, she tried to find a volleyball team to play with and she created her group of friends. If you like swimming, find a pool. If you want to, I don't know, go climbing or enroll yourself into a yoga, Pilates course, kickboxing, Barry's bootcamp, I don't know, anything, even language courses. So everything you think could be something you would enjoy, something that could allow you to meet new people and create new friends. Just go for it. Also because Paris is a city that truly makes you available a lot of activities you can do alone. And not only alone, but also alone in order to meet new people. But I created a specific reel on this on Instagram. So if you need some inspo about activities you could do alone in Paris, just check it out on my Instagram account because that could be very helpful. So yes, I know it can be scary in the beginning, but you will create your new life. You will create your new routine. You will meet new people. You will create friendships. You will create relationships. It's just a matter of being patient in the first period. Don't feel the rush. Don't hurry to create a new life because you just have to allow things to happen. You just have to allow things to happen in the right moment. So don't just pressure yourself. Allow things to go the way they are supposed to go and with the time required for things to happen. Eventually, everything will set into place. So don't be worried about that. So yes, I did it alone because I wanted to do it for me. This was a dream I had, as you may now have understood. I wanted to live in Paris. So this is a decision I took by myself, and I faced the whole moving situation and everything by myself. So I arrived here alone. I didn't know anybody in Paris. And then slowly, very slowly, step by step, day by day, I met a person, a second person, a third person, and then I created a group of friends, and then different groups based on different interests. So I created my core, I created my new reality, I created my new routine, I created a proper new life. So it's possible, but you have to give yourself time. You have to give yourself enough time and patience to do everything and to allow things to happen. You don't have to rush. You don't have to feel the pressure of like moving here and needing to meet new people in 1 week and then finding this in 1 month. No, once you move, it's okay. It's just the beginning. You are going to build a new life, but building a new life requires time, requires effort, requires things to happen. Just don't feel pressure. Just one step at a time. So I want to end just by saying that whenever you have a dream and you decide to pursue that dream, you will not know how it's gonna go. You cannot know if it's gonna go in a positive way and that dream will actually turn out to be exactly as you thought it was going to be, or if it will end up in a negative way, meaning that that dream will actually not be what you thought it was going to be and will not give you what you thought it was going to give you. But in both cases, it's a win-win, because in one case, amazing, you gain what you dreamt about and you start creating your new life. In the other case, without even realizing that, if that dream turns out not to be what you thought it was going to be, that dream automatically will disappear. It will get out from your drawer, from your mind, and it will disappear, and it will transform into something new, a new dream, a new goal, something new to achieve. So in both cases, it's way better than keep living a life with a dream in your mind and live a whole life with a question mark, what if, without maybe knowing that if you try to pursue it, it would have actually made you understood it was not the right dream for you. While instead, if you pursue it and it gives you what you thought it was going to give you, you will have realized that dream. By the way, I think that in both cases, you get something positive out of it. So it's gonna be scary when you take decisions like this one. It's scary, but always remember that if you have a dream and you feel it very strongly inside of you and you really want to give yourself the chance to see what you could have if you pursue that dream, just go for it, or at least just try. You owe it to yourself if you can, if you know you can. And I'm not talking about the ideal situation, because if we keep waiting the ideal situation, we may be waiting forever because the ideal situation rarely makes an appearance. But I'm just saying, if you can, if you know you can, even though it's hard, even though you have to find a compromise, if you know you can take this decision, just give it a try. Because maybe you'll be lonely for the first period, but it will just be temporary. Maybe it will be scary, but it will be temporary. Maybe you will feel out of your comfort zone and you will not feel at ease. It will be temporary. But what it won't be temporary is the new life you're going to create. Because that could be actually the life you can't stop thinking about. And it could become your reality. So if I can close this video like in a purposeful way, I want to say that the thing that helped me the most when I didn't know where to start, I just had this big dream of moving to Paris and I had no idea of where I needed to start to turn it into reality. What truly helped me was taking this dream, which was there in a sort of a cloud, like you couldn't touch it and it felt unreachable. I took the dream and I wrote it down. So I stopped thinking about it as a dream and I turned it into a goal. Because a goal is something more concrete. So you speak about a goal and you already change the way you perceive it. It's something reachable. It's something that you just need to understand how to get there, but you know you will get there. So turn that dream into a goal and divide it into single steps. And most importantly, focus on the single step in front of you. Stop focusing on the whole mountain, because otherwise it will get overwhelming. Divide it into single steps and focus on one single step at a time. And most importantly, stop focusing on the things you cannot control. Because so many times we lose important energy towards things that are out of our control, while we should only focus on the things we can control. You cannot control if a recruiter is going to call you. You cannot control if a company is going to make you a job offer, but you can control fixing your resume. You can control activating job alerts on the main job search websites. You can control fixing your LinkedIn profile. Focus on what you can control and allow everything else to just unfold and happens the way it's supposed to. Because I can assure you that the things that are supposed to happen will find a way to happen. So just focus on what you can do and then let things happen the way they're supposed to. So I know that back at the time when I decided to move to Paris, interacting with people that had gone through this change helped me a lot to understand like if I could find something in common. So I truly hope this video made you feel like we are all very similar if we share this dream of moving to Paris. And if you have no idea of how to turn it into reality, I was exactly like you. So I had no idea of what I was doing 90% of the time. I tried to do the best I could with what I had in the moment. Just don't feel frustrated. Don't feel like it cannot happen because it can. I promise you, if you start moving towards that goal, things will start moving, but it's up to you. You have to start the process and something will happen. So I really hope this video was helpful. I really hope giving you a little bit more of a context about my experience could be a support for you and for that decision that maybe you have been having inside of you for a while. And of course, if you have additional questions, I'm as always a DM away on Instagram, but you can also leave a comment here in the comment section. But also if you have additional subjects that you would like to discuss, I can definitely think about adding more videos related to subjects like this one and not only on the bureaucratic process. And that being said, if you like this video, just click on the like button, but most importantly, subscribe to the channel so that we can keep going and keep walking towards this process of becoming Parisians together. And on my side, I send you my best wishes and my biggest hug for your moving to Paris process, and see you in the next video.